Over the past few decades, MMOs and action RPGs have become one of the most influential genres in gaming history. World of Warcraft, Dungeon Fighter Online, Zelda, Dark Souls, RuneScape, Goat Simulator. But one title stands out among the rest, one that single-handedly changed the genre forever. Diablo. A game so dark and atmospheric that it was known as being the inverse of everything of its time. And a game so renowned for revolutionizing the online gaming scene that all further MMOs wouldn't exist without Diablo's direct influence. And after 2 decades of Diablo ruling the now dubbed dungeon crawler genre, its creator, Blizzard Entertainment, sought to bring a brand new installment of this revolutionary franchise into the world. One that's announcement brought 40,000 people from all across the globe to Blizzard's biggest annual gaming convention, BlizzCon 2018. And one that's release would forever go down in history as one of the worst and most aggressive pay-to-win games ever made, serving as the final nail in Blizzard's cold coffin and spawning one of the most iconic clips from a gaming convention ever recorded.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones.
But to understand just how bad Diablo Immortal's release was, the impact it's had on the gaming industry, and just how exactly the game got to that state in the first place, we're gonna have to go back to... The year is 1997. Blizzard has just released Diablo 1, and it's a smashing success, being the then blossoming company's 3rd biggest hit in just 4 years. You see, at the time, action RPGs were a dying genre, with those that remained being heavily fantasy-based like Zelda or Final Fantasy. But Diablo? It was dark, edgy, and addictive. Descend the levels of hell to fight Satan himself, immediately becoming the most downloaded PC game in the United States, and reached first place in PC Data's monthly computer sales chart, with over 2 million copies sold within just the first 2 years of its release, and reaching a high of 94 out of 100 on Metacritic. The dungeons are so well designed that first-time players didn't even know they were randomly generated, and with plenty of quests, character classes, and interesting NPCs, with unique enemies to each playthrough, a plethora of magical items and weapons, and flawless multiplayer modes, the replay value was unlike anything ever seen before, with an ending twist like no other. It had single-handedly revived the genre and revolutionized the industry. It was perfect. But Diablo didn't just revolutionize the gaming world through its gameplay, it also introduced a brand new function into the gaming space: Blizzard's BattleNet. You see, prior to Diablo, you had to go through a third-party software and type in IP addresses, and jump through a bunch of flaming hoops while reciting the entirety of Dante's Inferno backwards. With BattleNet, all you had to do was press one button. Then boom, you're in. Playing with friends was easier than ever, and it allowed an entire online economy to flourish. Blizzard had outdone themselves. Then, in the year 2000, Diablo 2 released, and they had done it again. It was bigger, better, edgier, a 4-act storyline, new weapon systems, even more dungeons and quests, even more unique enemies, even more character classes, even better online multiplayer. It was awarded PC Game of the Year, PC RPG of the Year, and Game of the Year, selling over 2 million copies in just 2 months. Becoming the fastest selling computer game ever of its time. And just a year later, an entire expansion with a whole new act and 2 more character classes had released, making the game even better. Diablo had been solidified as one of the most influential and iconic series of all time. Then, after an entire decade of the now gigantic cult following waiting for a new installment in the franchise, Diablo 3 was announced, and it was different. It was entirely online, and upon release, it simply didn't work. Players couldn't log in, enemies were too difficult, the game too repetitive, the in-game economy was entirely broken, the endgame was lacking, it was a mess. While it received mostly positive reviews from critics, fans were not happy. It took years for Blizzard to get the game up on its feet, but it never truly felt like Diablo. It was brighter, flawed, and had taken too long to prove its value. Fans were craving a retry, a new entry into the franchise that would return Diablo to its roots, and a new game that would revolutionize the industry once again. The year is now 2018. It's been over 2 decades since the original Diablo released, and rumors are beginning to surface. A new Diablo game was in the works in Blizzard's darkest depths, and with BlizzCon coming up in just a few months, fans were getting excited. Tens of thousands of people booked their flights, paid for their hotels, and prepared for the good news. And on November 2nd, with over 40,000 attendees and over 10 million streaming the event online, during BlizzCon's big opening ceremony, the rumors were confirmed to be true. Blizzard welcomes Wyatt Chang on stage, and he begins the announcement.
BlizzCon, we love Diablo. So we knew we want to use mobile devices as the platform for a new Diablo game.
Wait, what?
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever?
We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC.
Diablo, you know, the game that's been a staple of the PC genre ever since the dawn of its creation, the game that had primarily remained PC for the past 2 decades, the game that was critically acclaimed as PC Game of the Year, and you want to make it a mobile game? People were not happy.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have
Everyone's got a
phones,
phone.
right?
You can play on your tablet too.
Oh boy. So it was a free mobile game. Well, maybe that wouldn't be too bad. Mobile gaming had been doing fine over the past decade, and phones had become infinitely better at processing graphics and larger games over that time span. It looked like it had an interesting story too, bridging the plots of Diablo 2 and 3. And the mechanics looked faithful yet refreshing. So maybe there was some hope after all. But Blizzard isn't known for making many mobile games. Their main prior attempt was bringing Hearthstone to mobile back in 2015, and that launch didn't exactly go much better than Diablo 3's. And that was a virtual card game, not an entire randomly generated dungeon crawler RPG. But wait, this time they were having help? Who'd they choose to work with? Their Chinese publisher NetEase? Hey, aren't they the ones that constantly oversaturate their own market by releasing thousands of knockoffs of popular games per year and effectively kill their own franchises? Oh boy, things weren't looking too great, and it was slated to release next year. Just like all good modern games, Diablo Immortal was delayed. A lot. Year upon year would pass, delay after delay after delay. Information about the game was scarce, and fans wondered if it even existed at all. Although a few drops of information had been surfacing. And after a few more months, news from the exclusive alpha in Australia was beginning to spread, and things weren't looking too bad. Is that the classic edgy tone, returning iconic characters, a decent warband system, competitive PvP, and there'd be a whole 60 levels? Yeah, this was looking good, and the game was finally on track for its new release date, a whole 4 years after its announcement. And on April 25th, 2022, our good old friend Wyatt Chang was back with a brand new release date trailer. It was coming in about a month. And oh yeah, you'd also be able to play it on PC. Diablo was officially back, and it was looking better than ever. And June 2nd couldn't come soon enough. It's June 1st, 2022. Almost 30 million people had pre-registered and were eagerly waiting for the servers to open and to jump in. And as the clock struck midnight, over 10 million people dove into this brand new Diablo experience. And it was... holy shit, it was good! The graphics looked great, the servers actually worked, the NPCs were familiar and interesting, the controls made sense and were basically perfectly ported to mobile, the gameplay was fun and enjoyable, and... oh. My god. You thought you were descending into a regular old hell. And yet you found yourself in one of the deepest, darkest, corrupt microtransaction abominations you've ever seen. First, you're presented with the beginner's pack, costing just $1 to get some extra eternal orbs and a nice cosmetic. I guess that's fair. Most mobile games have something called the first purchase policy to entice the player to spend a little bit of money to break that free-to-play barrier, and then make them more susceptible to spending more money on the game. Then you're shown a full-blown battle pass and advancement system. Okay, that's also somewhat standardized. Then an exclusive limited one-time chance bundle, also costing just $1. That gives you eternal orbs, crests, and normal gems. And then more and more of that exact same pack, but costing more and more each time. And then new currency after new currency after new currency. And that's only just the first layer of this deep winding hell. You see, those crests mentioned earlier are used to buff the rewards you get from completing dungeons, or Elder Rifts. The more crests and the higher level the crests you pour into a rift, the better the rewards and stats your party will receive. So then, as you can imagine, these crests became the central focus of progression within the game. Especially since you can add up to 10 at one time, which the game didn't even tell you about until you've already added 3 to one rift. The kicker is, you can buy exactly 10 of these crests with premium currency bought with real-life money for $25. And since rifts only took around 5 minutes, meaning you could complete around 10 an hour, to maximize efficiency and loot rewards, that's $250 per hour. And the game was virtually impossible to progress without this single mechanic, as almost half a year's worth of free-to-play grinding could be bypassed by doing one 5-minute 10 legendary crested rift. Oh yeah, and those rewards are randomized, and took some people over $10,000 worth of legendary crests to get the actual item drop they wanted, if they even ever did at all. And since these rifts required gameplay to beat, they legally weren't considered as loot boxes, despite them functionally serving as one, meaning Blizzard wasn't legally required to display drop rates. And a game where randomized loot boxes that are purchasable with real money highly impact your actual gameplay and progression is called a gacha game, categorizing them as virtual gambling. And this was the core of Diablo Immortal's gameplay, to such an extent that it made actual gacha games like Genshin Impact or Clash Royale look like a playground. Yikes. So how's that PvP going? Play a few matches, you run into him. Finally feel pressure to buy some crests to get some gems and upgrade your gear? You only get a few rounds of victory before matchmaking kicks in and pairs you up against other people who've bought crests. And now you're with him. So you buy more, and more, and more. Because no matter how much you spend, there will always be someone who spent more. And matchmaking can't measure skill while it's too busy measuring someone's wallet. But hey, at least you can't just straight up buy overpowered equipment since you have to go through that whole randomized crest system. Oh wait, you can? You can just pay to progress the pass system in general to get the included free legendary weapon that comes with every season earlier than everyone else? It was like they were building a Thanos gauntlet of all the scummy ways for a mobile game to make money. Next you're gonna tell us that there's even a whole cosmetic draw system that gets progressively more expensive with every time you draw. Seriously? That upon first kill awards, even more daily login rewards, advancement systems that cost even more money, a literal level wall where you could simply no longer progress without pouring weeks upon weeks into leveling up, or hundreds upon hundreds of dollars into crests and gear, and other entirely broken systems like everything just mentioned only counting towards one character and not the entire account, meaning you'd have to spend several thousands of dollars per character. The entire gaming community was left speechless. This was single-handedly the most absurd microtransaction pay-to-win hell that anyone had ever seen, with headlines calling it predatory, and hardcore fans in the forums recommending you to just go play Diablo 3 instead. Then there's the absurdly priced cosmetic shop, the same daily chores over and over, insanely oppressive UI, and a whole bunch of connection and performance issues that made the game infuriating. Oh, and just like nothing properly worked on PC, most of it still had the same UI and features meant for mobile devices. It was bad. The game was already worse than what anyone could have ever expected. And we haven't even gotten to the worst part. You see, those crests from before were initially only thought to have two variants, normal and legendary. But when you completed a legendary rift and went to sell your newfound gems on the market, you couldn't. They were bound. This goes for all legendary crests found throughout the game, except if you bought them straight from the in-game currency bought with real money. Those crests were entitled Eternal Legendary Crests, and were the only way to get sellable legendary gems for the in-game market, meaning all legendary gems on the market were from players who paid to play the game, letting whales solely control a central part of Diablo's in-game economy. And there wasn't even a UI slot for them yet. They were entirely a secret. Yeah. Welcome to hell. As you can imagine, the community wasn't happy. Numbers were being thrown around online of just how much it would cost to fully max out your character. The most common answer? $110,000. So, working a minimum wage job? Great, you'll have to do that for about 10 more years before you can even max out your character in a mobile game. But some news outlets went on to claim that a single character could even cost as high as $500,000, depending on your luck with those undisclosed drop rates. And while the total number of how much it'd cost to max an immortal character is still widely unknown, a single player alleged that he did actually spend over $100,000 on a single character over the course of a year, and became so overpowered that the PvP system stopped letting him into matches for months because there were simply no opponents in his power level, leaving him with nothing more to do but beg for a refund. Diablo Immortal was in absolute shambles. Immediately, Blizzard was met with riots, boycotting, mass internet hysteria, the overall renouncing of the game's name, and even threats of a class action lawsuit over a bait-and-switch case with one of their bundles containing a gem with a wildly false description of what it actually did. Diablo had gone from a game that revolutionized the industry to one that infinitely tarnished the morals and values of the gaming space. So what exactly happened during those 4 years of development? Back in 2018, Blizzard wanted to build a new Diablo from the ground up. They'd seen the success of the growing mobile gaming industry, and they've got an idea. They grabbed their decade-long Chinese publisher, who are already known throughout the mobile gaming industry, and they get to work. NetEase provides their special mobile Messiah engine, does some asset conversions from Diablo 3, provides some basic MMO templates, and dips. Blizzard is left to develop the rest of the game, but they end up going through some issues. Firstly, the reception. Fans were not happy with the mobile announcement, and Blizzard goes into panic mode. Time to figure out how to plug a controller and keyboard into a phone. Then in 2019, the global pandemic hits. Time to work from home. Then in 2021, Blizzard's parent, Activision, is hit with a wave of sexual assault, gender discrimination, and general misconduct allegations, resulting in mass staff walkouts and layoffs. Time to not do that. And in 2022, Blizzard and NetEase get into a little disagreement over some undisclosed disclosures, leading to both companies promptly terminating their contract, accompanied by a long legal dispute ending in NetEase publicly destroying their famous World of Warcraft orc statue outside of their office with literal sledgehammers. And a drink. Despite all of that, Blizzard pumps out a pretty decent mobile MMO, but it wasn't mobile enough, and they were running out of time. So they take a look at the market. All of the new hit games have this fancy new thing called a battle pass. Add that to the alphas, and to no surprise, it's also a hit. So they hit copy and paste a few thousand times, throwing in a few extra progression enhancers to make gameplay easier. Also a hit. One big issue, those alpha players only got a few months to play the game, and never got to see how these purchases would impact the economy and PvP aspects long term. But Blizzard was already on a roll. Mobile gamers love cosmetics too, right? Add those. Crests are annoying to grind. What if you could just buy those too? It's a mobile game. Nobody has time to actually play a mobile game. What if you could just buy everything? And by the time that Blizzard realized that they have absolutely no clue how to develop a mobile game, they had already released it. Blizzard was an outsider to the mobile industry, misunderstood the fundamentals of how these systems worked, and built one of the most initially horrid mobile abominations to ever grace game stores around the world. It wasn't some outside corporation corrupting a stand-up company. This was a homegrown eldritch horror. And this misunderstanding has been evident from the very beginning.